Men are slowly giving up and nobody cares. I care!
Increasingly, more and more men are giving up. Giving up on relationships, careers, and society as a whole. Resentment is growing, unemployment.
Am I a man for thinking the same way? Am I bad? I'm cooked, chat.
Is becoming rampant, and keeping your head above water seems almost impossible for many men today. This is leading to more men than ever dropping out of society entirely. And it's not just that, men are becoming infantilized. With terms like adulting now becoming normal, it's clear that something ugly is happening that needs to be addressed. We live in
I think that happens with women too, though. Like the word adulting, like I hate adulting, I hate being adult. Like, yeah, that's like a millennial thing to say.
Such a strained, unnatural environment that is bound to start to wear on society, but men in particular are battling to keep up and are slowly giving up. Giving up on dreams, giving up on trying, and giving up on doing anything constructive. And for a large part, it's really not their fault, as this trend isn't just a personal struggle.
Whoa, what was that? What was that article?
And for a large part, it's really not their fault, as this—
Is your husband a man-child? Do you mummy him? What do you mean? Taking care of your husband is not man-childing or mummying. That's what I mean. Like, you have to take care of your husband first or everything else falls apart. It's not about mummying. Yeah. I'm not even talking about the whole, oh, I want a mommy. Like, you know, that thing. It's like, oh my God, man. Take care of him first. That's the whole point of being in a relationship, no?
Trend isn't just a personal struggle, but a societal issue that we must urgently address. So why is this happening? And why has it gotten so bad in 2024?
The economy. That's the long answer of it, not even joking. Chronically online and the economy.
On the surface, it's a long and complicated story. Life has never been simple for any human, and objectively speaking, for men in the West today, it's never been better. We have all the technology we need, food delivered to your door with the tap of a finger, dating readily available to anyone with a simple swipe, any products, items, or experiences that you want.
But yeah, you have to pay out of your ass for all of these. What do you mean? Oh, food delivery to your door. Yeah, and it costs an arm and a leg. Groceries baseline costs an arm and a leg. Dating apps cost an arm and a leg if you want to get the platinum premium edition, like with super likes and shit. Yeah, consume your slop.
Can be had with the tap of your phone. But over time, all of these comforts of life destroys the importance and necessity of struggle. Without any value placed on higher goals, where there just is no reason to care, means there's no reason for people to properly live or have the will to achieve greatness. Which is probably why 40% of young men aged 18 to 45 meet the criteria for depression, and 49% of—
Oh my God. 8233 Gen Z Zillennial. Wait, that's actually a term. I thought I was joking about that shit. Zillennial, millennial, elder millennial. It's getting worse, Chad. It's over.
18 to 23-year-olds have had a thought of passing themselves in the past 2 weeks alone. And we're seeing the symptoms of this problem everywhere. The sapping away of our vision and ambition permeates in all aspects of modern society today. Our culture, architecture, relationships.
Well, yeah, I mean, climbing the corporate ladder is like so much worse than like, I don't know, like 20, 30 years ago. Now you have to jump between jobs, and if you can't find a job in your city, you have to move cities. Like, there's just so much to like think about in that respect. It happened to me too. I'm not saying, oh, you know, I just have just like men, you know. I think that happens to everyone.
Bodies and minds. Past civilizations before us have always placed their emphasis on beauty, wisdom, and logic for all the population to see, with great town squares, bustling with art, life, and community. These things were placed above all else as the bedrock of their societies, laying out a code of honor and struggle in its people to achieve greatness. Comforts were shown in art and culture, but as an aspiration for achieving something great, for following your mastery. But today our cities are mostly devoid of all of this character, and instead they're marked out by the most cost-efficient, bland, and sterile designs to facilitate a simpler, self-motivated purpose. It's why
I think this is a little bit of a stretch. I genuinely don't think people would care as much if they could afford living in those buildings. Like, nobody man, I don't know if I should say this, but it doesn't matter if it looks like shit if people can live in it. Like, honestly, if it's just functional and it's well built, like, it doesn't really matter, in my opinion. Like, I've lived in shitty looking apartments, and as long as it was affordable, I'm like, okay, like, it's fine, I don't really care. Yeah, function over fashion, exactly. The problem here is that people see it's an ugly building, but then it costs $4,000 a month. That's when it becomes an issue. It's like, oh, you're charging $4,000 a month and nobody lives there, and you have this eyesore in the city. That's when it becomes a problem.
Purpose. It's why people flock all over the world to a handful of remaining cities that retain their centuries-old charm to feel and experience the character of bygone societies that were motivated by higher ideals. Ideals greater than our modern two-dimensional ways of thinking. With a prioritization of comfort, lust and opulence, and flashy materialism over individual excellence and greater community, we're now reeling in the aftermath, becoming instead a generation of mandated mediocrity. And does this explain why men today seem to struggle more than ever while seemingly having more than ever?
Well, it's because you don't have a purpose. Like, with women, like, there's a lot of incentive behind, you know, having your own career. If you don't have kids, then you're like a worthless hag, and like your eggs are dried up, or you're like unlikable. It's the same thing with men, obviously, but I think that men have more, like, they need the purpose to drive them. Because women kind of, like, fall into place in life. Like, they'll keep going, and, like, you know, it doesn't really matter. Your coochie is a cobweb nest. You're rotten eggs. Come on, man! I wasn't gonna go that far, but sure. Yeah, like, women's purpose is, like, you know, being a breeding cow, but you can very easily be a breeding cow, you know? If you try. You can rent out your womb, chat. Did you know that? It costs thousands of dollars. They'll rent your womb.
In particular is not actually in a recession. In fact, on paper, the economy looks like the best it's been in a while. Unemployment has dropped, GDP is up, but what the people are actually experiencing is a completely different story. We can see this in a study by the University of Michigan on consumer sentiments, which gathers data based on how consumers feel about the current state of finances. In 2022, it dropped to an all-time low. Prices of our average daily needs like gas and food have increased in unbearable percentages. In contrast, salary increases do not match, putting a high...
I had a really old Taco Bell receipt from 2018 or 19. I actually... I lost it. I was like, holy fuck. It was in a book that I was reading at the time, and I was like cleaning my room, and I opened it up. The taco costs like $1.30 or $1. Now it costs like $2-3. And I was like, what the fuck? What the fuck? I should have kept it. This was before I started streaming, but like still, it was crazy.
Strain on budgets.
Inflation is showing no signs of slowing down as Americans pay over $1,000 a month more on the same essentials we were buying 3 years ago. Nothing's changed but price.
When I was really into like Excel spreadsheeting all of my expenses, my food, like my grocery, I bought the same amount of shit. I know what I buy. I generally buy the same stuff week in and week out because I like routine. I'll try recipes, like new recipes every once in a while, but that's like averaged out. It comes out to be about the same. My shit increased by like $100 or some shit, $120 from like 2019 or 2020. It's like, oh my god. Oh my god, I can't believe this shit. That's unheard of.
The latest consumer price index for March showing basic necessities like our food, housing, and gas are all continuing to cripple Americans' wallets with higher prices.
Our wages are actually down against inflation since Biden took office. So not only are prices soaring, but our wages, at least if you measure hourly wages.
And like milk and meat went up like an obscene amount too. Oh god, it was insane. I had to like stop buying meat at some point. I would have to like have a designated like little piece of meat that I would like ration out. I know that sounds cringe, but like, yeah, it was like at a point where it's like you had to buy cheap cuts of meat that would last you a whole week.
Are not keeping up at all.
Yeah.
Keeping your head above water has become the new normal instead of owning a home with a white picket fence. The rich are becoming richer and the poor are becoming poorer, with the middle class disintegrating. All the knowledge of the past of just going to college, getting a job, and buying a home immediately is just completely irrelevant for anyone working and living in 2024. Universities have skyrocketed in prices to absurd levels.
Oh my god. That's called a scam. Is it racketeering? I don't know if that's the right word. Racketeering. Racketeering is a set of legal commercial problem. No, it's not racketeering. Sorry, it's the wrong word. It's basically a scam in my opinion. College in America is absolutely a scam. It's insanely expensive and it used to be really cheap, and it's just like, oh, it used to cost so little because, inflation. It's like, it went up like 300%!
The housing market is in a complete giant bubble. Everyone's sending out job applications more and more, all while using these automated testing systems, applying up to 100 jobs a day, and still not getting anywhere. All the while major companies repeatedly tell us that they can't find any workers for their companies. And the results of this are clear. People are drifting towards more unfulfilling jobs, or just not even having a job at all, while the rich buy up resources, real estate, and everything that used to be the cornerstones of the middle class, that is now
What's the solution here? I already know all this crap. What's the solution? Viva la revolution! Eat the rich!
just an investment hidden through an offshore bank account for some giant investment fund.
Basically, what they want to do is create a nation of renters. BlackRock coming in and giving them more money than the house is worth.
How much more do they give them?
They can give them, 30% above.
Really?
Which is money.
And then they just
it's
lease those
BlackRock.
homes out.
And they lease them out. It's part of this idea that home ownership and automobile ownership and all of these things, these legacy systems that people want to get rid of. And they go, rent a house, use Uber, Lyft, whatever. You don't need to own. What does owning do for you? That's that famous.
That is terrifying. Wait. But then they can dictate fucking prices and everything. And then if you own a house, you're just in the house as long as you pay like electricity and water. I mean, you don't have to, but you don't have to pay for heating and electricity. They don't want you to sustain yourself. Neo-feudalism? Yeah, I guess so. Are we going back to neo-feudalism, chat? Property tax? Okay, well, let's be reasonable. Property tax, cringe, but, that's something. But renting is actually a scam, in my opinion. It's sad.
Article, you'll own nothing and be happy.
Right.
And because of this, all saving plans for regular people are halted because living paycheck to paycheck means there just isn't enough for a savings plan. And whilst there is still some hope to dig your way out, for most this does begin a damaged path. People end up working in a job that's not in their field, something that they hate.
I knew a girl that lived near me, and she went to a similar job that I did like 5 years ago. She did Uber for like 3 to 4 hours after work just to pay off like mortgages and rent and stuff. And this was 5 years ago. I can't imagine what's happened to them now. That is insane to me. And you know what's terrifying? BlackRock's gonna keep doing this unless we stop it. And it's all up to the lawmakers and the government to do something about it. And I kind of doubt that they will. Sorry to be all doomy on a doomer video, but I really hope something happens soon.
To do every day and eliminate the experience they need for the job in their field. And so even the experience they are getting is just completely useless for getting back on track. In effect, their now entry-level position is further deviating them from becoming lawyers, psychologists, or whichever career path they studied for. And if the middle class is experiencing this, then the lower earners are feeling this even more. The jobs they once had a chance of landing now go to the middle class, while they get hit a bump lower, which is...
Well, you used to be able to work as a milkman back in the 1970s, and have a wife that doesn't work that took care of 2-3 kids in a house, and you could get a mortgage for that house that was I don't know, a couple hundred a month. It's laughable. Like, they could afford to have groceries, have like a normal life, you know? Yeah, like it was no, you just can't do that. You want to be a milkman? Like, let's say not milkman, like a delivery driver or something. Now, and now both the parents have to work and they have to also pay for childcare.
Putting millions of people in dire straits. They face working twice as hard for minimum wage, juggling between jobs, partaking in the gig economy with absolutely no security, all with an extreme pressure to keep up with daily expenses in a completely overpriced megacity. And the truth is, both middle and lower earners are now taking a huge hit to their egos. They feel disrespected through no fault of their own, as no man wants
They're killing the middle class, essentially. Yeah.
to feel like a failure. They don't want to feel like they're not providing or on their destiny. Imagine putting in the hours and effort to get a degree and then having to take a job that's not even within the field you studied for. Well, this is just regular life for most people nowadays. It's making men feel incredibly depressed and isolated. They watch all this stuff on social media, they see people flexing the Rolexes on their Instagram stories.
I used to get really upset when I saw all my high school friends getting like degrees and having kids and stuff. It made me feel bad, but then I realized like it's just me consuming social media or like Instagram. I'm not talking about like, oh, they were flexing their Rolexes. No, it was just them talking about like, oh, I want to have a kid, and then they have that kid, or they like graduated from college, and I was like happy for them, but I felt like kind of like a bum. Whereas you're supposed to just focus on yourself. Like maybe that's not your fucking path, you know? Or they rented it. Yeah, well, I'm not saying my friends did that or like my high school friends at the time when I had them on Facebook and stuff, but when you consume that kind of content and you look at random people and they're like, oh, I have this Gucci like bracelet, and it's like actually rented. Comparison is the thief of joy. Yeah, absolutely. I totally agree.
Meanwhile, they're struggling to survive, living a life they absolutely hate. And when friends and family ask about it, they suffer the humiliation of explaining why they had to take what was available. Even though it isn't humiliating at all, and they're doing what they can to survive, it definitely takes a huge effect on their mental health. Especially as it wasn't that long ago, where it was actually normal to enter the workforce with a mentor who would show you the ropes and encourage you and push you to learn more.
I'm pretty sure my audience can relate to this, because I remember when I first like said, "Hey, mom and dad, I want to get a job." They literally told me to write like a what is it called? Like a resume, and go to like different stores. And this was like years ago, by the way. And they told me to do that, and I didn't get a job back. And they said, "Well, did you talk to them?" And I said, Yeah, like I did. I didn't get a job, and I would like wait to hear back. And I remember this one time I got it was a job for retail, which was just folding clothes in like a department store. And I went to 3 interviews, and then on the final one, they got down to the final 5 girls, and they said, yeah, you're the one that got the job, and the rest of you, sorry. Like right in front of our faces. That was demoralizing as fuck. And this was years ago too, like before COVID, right? And I was like, Mom, Dad, like, I'm so tired. Like, this was before college, too. And it was like, what the fuck, man? Like, why can't I get a job? And they're like, oh, well, you didn't do good enough. You know, like Slavic parents and all that, they would say shit like, oh, well, you didn't, like, you know, assert yourself enough. And I'm like, no, I just think it's nepotism. Because the girl that got the job was friends with the manager's daughter or something. And I was like, yeah, I don't know. I feel like that's just how many jobs are available in my area, you know? Like, yeah, good parents go, like, you know, write your resume. But, like, at the same time, it was really demoralizing when people are like, oh, you didn't, like, talk to them. Like, you didn't try hard enough. It's like, oh my god, yes, I want a fucking job. I want to earn money, not sitting on your neck. Like, what?
At the bottom didn't seem so bad because there was an opportunity to grow and reap more rewards.
It's annoying.
But this imperative step is slowly slipping away. Companies of prestige have forgotten the generation with no experience. And for many companies, this is what they want. This is actually the ideal scenario, where they have people so desperate, so in need of experience, that they can treat their workers like absolute trash.
Oh, this isn't even a thing in America. A thing that happens not in America, like in New Zealand and Australia, they will ask for like a year's worth of experience for an entry-level job. That entry-level job that I had For my retail job that I tried to apply to, they said you need 1 year's worth of experience working in retail for like an entry level job, like folding clothes and like putting shit away. I was like, what the fuck? And then when I got a job as a temporary secretary, I had 0 experience and I got in through nepotism. I didn't like it, but it was a job. I could earn money. I was like, what the hell, man? This is so unfair. I have no experience, but okay.
Crash. Since the 1980s, testosterone levels have dropped more than 50%, and yet we're told to ignore it. Why? Because there's a coordinated effort to suppress masculinity and turn men into something they were never meant to be. This decline is no accident. We're constantly exposed to harmful chemicals in our food and everyday products, bombarded with estrogenic chemicals from
Connections aren't nepotism. I disagree. I literally had no reason to have the job. I don't know. I'm just saying this from my experience. I only took it because I just had no money. I got the job because my mom was friends with like the CEO. I had no prior experience. They just took me because like my mom was like, hey, I have a little job, like a little temporary job for like a month or two. It absolutely is.
plastics, junk food, and sedentary lifestyles, which is why testosterone levels have been declining for decades, with a 17% drop among 60-year-olds in 2004 compared to 1987. Sperm count and strength in men are also decreasing exponentially, with a 32.5% decrease in mean sperm concentration.
Is that in the entire world or just America? Because, like, in America, we have an obesity problem. I thought it was all the plastic in the balls.
In the last 50 years. But here's the good news. There are ways to fight back. And one of the most effective solutions that I found is our sponsor Black Forest's Testosterone with Tonkat Ali. This supplement is packed with two of the most powerful natural testosterone boosters available. Testosterone is a natural anabolic compound that helps increase muscle growth, boost recovery, and support higher testosterone levels. Tonkat Ali, used for centuries, helps raise testosterone, reduce stress, and improve overall vitality. I've been using Black Forest's Testosterone and Tonkat Ali, and I've noticed a huge improvement in my energy, strength, and focus. It's like getting back the edge that modern life was just
this is like the ashwagandha for men.
Draining away. Right now, Black Forest is offering a buy two, get one free deal on this limited edition product, and once it's gone for good. I can personally vouch for its effectiveness. It's had a huge difference in my energy levels, strength, sleep, and overall well-being. And by supporting our sponsors, you also support us directly. So hurry and take advantage of this amazing 48-hour promo and support me alongside this amazing brand using the link in the description below. The cost of having a job also plays a part in stripping them of their dignity. Transport
ashwagandha is for men. Mari, it's not. I'm pretty sure it's for women. Is it not? Hi, Mari.
Cost to their job, depending on the amount, can take a huge chunk of their salary, so that at the end of the day, they can only pay for rent or food and not both. A government grant could replace their salaries, and they earn more or less the same amount.
What's also helping to pay the bills is, as I said, the U.S. government, in particular, our disability programs for people who
make you depend on the government's titties so you keep suckling on it instead of being independent, chat. Classic America move.
Who are unable to work.
Shit.
Those programs seem to have morphed away from their original humane intention and now seem to provide an alternative income source to regular employment for several millions look, I'm
all for, like, helping people when they're struggling or something. Like, my parents had to take on welfare when they came from Russia to New Zealand at one point, and they had to literally take it because they just had to, like, get on their feet, and they always said it was like they were super grateful. This is someone's taxpayer dollars. And it's like, I think there's a place for it, but when you're completely dependent on it for like years and years and years and years and years, like decades even, I think that's when it's like, oh my God. I guess it's situational too, but like still.
millions and millions of
If you're
these
like
guys.
disabled
If a
or
job
something.
doesn't support your basic needs of a home, food, and transport, it wears thin in justifying the effort for this job, especially if you're not getting any experience. And in most cases, if you go into the gig economy, absolutely no security either. All for minimum
Yes.
wage. There's even a new term called quietly quitting, where you do the bare minimum of your job to the point that you're almost rendered useless and you get fired or simply quit.
Or you take a shit in a toilet for like 20, 30 minutes and you hide at work. I did that a few times. When I was like really close to quitting, I would take like really long bathroom breaks and hide in the toilet. I know, I'm that dickhead, but I take big fat shits in the toilet.
The fact that this term even exists shows that attention is desperately needed to solve this problem. And while this is happening, it's becoming more and more common for both partners in a household to be living the same life, or even with most males' partners actually being the breadwinner. And whilst this isn't necessarily a problem at all, it is leading to some weird modern problems in the household.
Problems? Problems? Yeah, it's leading to problems. I know what it could be. I know what it could be. Some men don't want to take care of kids. They want to work too, and then it becomes a problem and they start fighting. Problems. I'm not saying that men can't take care of kids, but sometimes men want to, like, you know, be the breadwinners, and it might be also insecurity. Like, having a dynamic shift like that can be, like, a really big problem.
Men with families are actually switching their roles with their wives, except they're not actually doing what their wives would do if they were to stay at home.
When you look at what I guess in
They
Britain
play
is called
video
NEET,
games. Edge be edging.
N-E-E-T, do you say that also in Australia? Neither employed nor in education or training. When you look at that huge group of well over 6 million prime age men, the story they're telling about their lives is really pretty devastating. It's pretty distressing. They basically don't do civil society. There's almost no worship, almost no volunteering, almost no charitable work. They've got a lot of time on their hands, but they report doing strangely little help around the home or help with other people at home.
Because the
Is that Australia? What? I mean, okay.
situation, some men may feel a sense of worthlessness and resentment.
How is this?
Some men might take an hour to clean up the house and fetch the kids, but the rest of the day they sleep or play games. In some cases, the wives
I
work.
feel like that's such a strong generalization. That is such a strong generalization, man. No, I think that men can be great caretakers. I think that women just do it differently. Like, I don't know. I feel like this guy's a little bit bitter or something.
And then come home to finish the chores their husbands were meant to do but didn't. And whilst this might cause huge marriage problems, it still feels better off to the husbands. If asked what they do for a living, saying they're on a break or working on a project beats the humiliation of saying they work at McDonald's with a useless degree on their back. Men without
I mean, yeah, working at McDonald's is humiliating. My brother said that. My brother worked at a Pizza Hut a long time ago, and he said he fucking hated it. That was like one of his first jobs, and he said he fucking hated it. This was like 20 years ago.
families have nothing to
Like way
lose,
older
so they
than
stop
me.
working because no woman would even want them anyway. They can't afford to date, they can't afford a family,
Yeah.
and since their own families are supportive, it somehow justifies them giving up and staying at home, rather than facing these societal problems head on. With prices rising, getting hired becoming harder and harder by the day, and inequality
Yeah.
becoming rampant within society, most men are just deciding to give up. Because instead of facing the hardships of having a job, it just seems so much easier to escape, whether it be terminally being online.
Well, McDonald's wouldn't be so humiliating if they actually paid them a decent wage. Like, the minimum wage doesn't even, like, equate to, like, a job. Like, you're kind of, like, okay, you worked at McDonald's, it sucked, but at least you could live on that kind of money, at least somewhat. Now you work at McDonald's and you, like, drive an Uber to, like, you know... You drive an Uber for, like, 4 hours after your McDonald's shift to make ends meet, man.
Playing video games all day, or hiding behind doing chores at home to show they still have a purpose and are doing their best. The point being that for many men in 2024,
I should clarify, I mean, minimum wage is not a livable wage, but it should be a livable wage, at least to some extent. It's disgusting.
If they're gonna be
Where they pay, like,
disrespected
$8
and feel
an hour.
worthless, they may as well choose the easy way out than a battle. If respect had a currency on how it would affect your life directly, you would see a different picture. A man with a job with high pressure, long hours, and doing something that makes him feel degraded would be worth,
look at that manly man doing oil stuff.
say, $100, but staying at home, playing games, and escaping, all while being with the people he loves, is probably worth $200 because of how it affects him. This explains why more and more men are deciding to drop out of society rather than face it head on, as it just seems to
Yeah, be a neat, Chad, be a neat.
be the easier path. If it's a choice between two paths, one that offers little satisfaction while the other provides comfort, it's easy to see why men are going this route. But the thing is, this is a terrible mistake. And this is creating problems that we've never seen before. If there is no emphasis or any facilitation of the need to aspire to something greater and the game seems rigged to most who are playing it, it's hardly a surprise record numbers of men are dropping out and giving up on the game entirely. The problem is that there's a huge group of men, roughly about 7 million in America,
That's a lot. 7 million? Out of how many? 100 million? US population. 346 million. 7.2. That's a lot, actually. Not working, period.
between the ages of 25 and 55 who are not working and are actively not looking
25 and 54? That's still working age. Yeah, I think 54 is like, you can still have a job, depending how your body's doing.
for work. Now, COVID certainly had a hand in accelerating these figures. One question posed to these dropouts was how many of these men were on pain medication, and almost half of these men admitted to taking pain medication daily. And aside from those who desperately need it, these figures could indicate that men are aimlessly numbing themselves to their new reality. And this is great for society, as people don't have to deal with this huge problem. And what's even more shocking is that 40% of these men do have some kind of degree.
What sort of men are in this group? Demographically, education, family structure, ethnicity, who makes up this?
Well, people also look down on jobs like plumbing and like carpenting, or what is it called? Being like an electrician and stuff. Like my brother had 2 degrees and then he became an electrician, and he says it's like the most fulfilling job he's ever had. Yeah, trade jobs, I feel like people look down on them and then they prop up like having a degree. It happens with girls too. They're like, oh, you have to have a STEM degree, or you have to have a degree to like, you know, be a secretary. It's like, no, you fucking don't. Shut up. Yeah, it doesn't matter. And plus, once you get up like the apprenticeship ladder and you become like a master, you start making a pretty decent like amount of money. Yeah, degrees don't really get you anywhere most of the time. Like 90% of the time, like except for maybe like, you know, engineers or like lawyers and doctors. Yeah. When I was in Europe, they pushed trade school a lot. A lot.
This group.
Surprisingly large, representation of guys with college or even college degrees. 40% of this group has at least some college, and as I recall, about a fifth or a sixth are college grads.
The decision to be in this state is closely related.
Well, in my opinion, when you get into debt for tens of thousands of dollars, and then you realize you don't like your tens of thousands of dollars that you spent on a degree, and you end up working at McDonald's, it's like a regret purchase. Like you purchase like, I don't know, what could I even compare it to? I don't know, like a broken car for like $10,000. And they also push it really early. Like when you're 18 years old, like you don't know what you're doing either. I remember my school started pushing like college since I was like 16 or 17, man. Yeah, it's like buyer's remorse. You're like, oh wait, I could have just like gone to trade school. And it's not even a skill issue thing, because they start pushing it when you're a child, and they think that you're gonna make the right decision. And again, so I think it's kind of like propaganda at this point. It's like a fucking scam. I don't think that degrees are worth it anymore. They stopped being worth it like in the 80s or 90s, in my opinion, from what I understand from like videos.
To changing times. We've already discussed the effects of brain rot in another upload, which disabled problem solving in Generation Z and has already presented problems in finding jobs. They are quick to quit at the first difficult task and move on to find something else, but what happens?
Well, yeah, I mean, that's like the whole gratification thing, brain rot. Like if you don't get instantly gratified, you can't. I I'm actually kind of on the fence because like Gen Z doesn't want to put up with this shit anymore. I think that there's a big issue with how people are being treated, and I think the generation below, like millennials and zillennials, they realize that they're kind of like worth more than like being just a, you know, like just a little cog in a machine, and they want to do better. But I also think the brain rot and instant gratification, obviously, it contributes to that as well. At least the smart ones will say that they're worth more. People being too sensitive, I think that at the same time, I think that that's why we're here, is that we're putting up with this shit, you know? All this crap that they're feeding about how, oh, you know, if you work another 50 years, maybe you could like get a job and like have enough money to have a house and a car and like maybe like a wife and a kid, you know? I think that I think that's like, there's like a mixed bag here. Both with the brainer and this.
When options run dry and they find themselves simply stuck in limbo. Giving up seems to be the next step, and accepting that is easy when they're discouraged by the situation. Working off of surveys, the data compiled indicates that these men are not only not working, but they're cutting themselves off from their communities, or there's no incentivization for them to even have any community in the first place. They're hiding out because going out would mean meeting new people who might oppose their lifestyles. It makes it uncomfortable. Why leave when you can just aimlessly watch brain rot content and numb yourself with weed?
Well, I mean, this is such a doomer take. I know this is like so extreme. I'm gonna give my take. Yes, you going on TikTok or Instagram and getting fed information that you already like and not getting the opposed point of view is like really bad. I think when we had stuff like in the early days of the internet, like if you had a disagreeing opinion, someone just called you a slur and that was it. Now it's like everything is censored on Twitter. Like there used to be like a hard ban on any disagreement, basically. Like even if you didn't call people names, you just couldn't like say anything, and that's what made people really angry as well. The weed thing is kind of strong. That was like every Gen Zer smokes weed. It's like that's not how it works, man. That's not how it works. I think everybody smokes a lot of weed when they're sad, if they're sad.
Weed or pain medication and stay inside in the warm comfort of home, and any sexual needs you have can be satisfied with pixels on a screen. This lifestyle
I saw that. Look, chat. Did you see that? That's the P hub.
Satisfied
with
pixels on a screen.
Yeah.
This lifestyle is increasingly becoming more and more normal for men in the West. But what's important to note is that men don't want to be this way. It's a horrible lifestyle, it's depressing, it's atomizing. What this really is just a coping mechanism or a form of self-defense against a society that's becoming increasingly hostile to these men. Up until recently, the problem has been invisible. These figures weren't shown in any statistics or surveys because they slipped through the cracks until very recently. So why did they slip through the cracks? Well, it's easy to see. They simply don't fit the victim criteria. Some have degrees, they're in the prime of their lives, and it was their choice to quit. It's easily overlooked and only comes to light as
well, everyone's situation is different. I think there's a lot of like, you know, couch potatoes that are lazy. Like I know there's probably people in chat that or like in the comment section, they're probably like, yeah, I know there's like people who are roommates who are couch potatoes and it's their fault. But there's also like people who are just, I don't know, they're just the victim of their circumstances, man. I've met plenty of people who bitched about their roommates not doing anything and they don't even try. And then they try to blame everyone else but themselves.
numbers rise. Nicholas Upstart wrote a book called Men Without Work and has since exposed and addressed the problems in his book. He says he is trained to look for hidden in plain sight problems, which is how he stumbled upon this issue. You see, these men are not causing trouble, at least for now, and they don't seem to be drawing any attention to themselves. On the contrary, they keep to themselves. So surveys and statistics just don't include them at all.
Well, yeah, I mean, men just generally bottle up their feelings more than women. If there's a problem, they just bottle it up. Man up, chat! Ugh.
They don't even register on the scale, and people in society think this is a joke issue.
By the way,
and it's also
cry,
reasonable
please.
to conclude that some of these men may work, but in the underground economy, work like formal cash jobs, or even shady illegal ways of making money. But of course, this is just a minor portion of these men. We need to address the problem head on. How is the situation getting this bad? These men have completely lost their purpose in life. All of their duty, their hopes, their responsibilities, their own dignity and value. It's being completely decimated.
I'm surprised he didn't address like problems with like dating and stuff, even though he brought it up at the start. That's also another big issue. Being labeled as like your first impression with like a woman on like with those fucking stupid dating apps is like, are you hot? No. Do you make a lot of money? No. Are you anything else doesn't really matter. It's like really like secondary or like a side note, you know? That's not how it used to be with like how we became more socially, like chronically online in a social way. Yeah, it's a blow to your self-esteem. Yeah, absolutely. Oh, you're sure? Well, you're probably not earning a lot. It's like, what the fuck?
At the moment, and we're seeing this with the form of radicalization online, growing hatred and division, and a general
Whoa. Toronto van attack suspect linked to misogynistic incel movement. The feds hate incels, chat. Keep being an incel.
and a general apathy towards society as a whole. And the longer this is ignored, the harder it's going to be addressed down the line. More men to
What about femcells, chat? They never talk about femcell, van attacks.
today than ever feel disconnected, disillusioned, and left behind by a world that seems increasingly indifferent to their struggles. While GDP numbers and employment stats may sound like an easy, good solution on paper, especially to government bureaucracies, it will never really fix the reality of the situation for normal people. The real challenge we face is
Well, and divorce rates are also really high, so like there's like a split in parents and, you know, kids not getting enough time from mom or dad or both. Even worse.
in the West is to find purpose and meaning again, to have any reason to even want to participate and achieve greatness in society. We should focus on creating environments where people can thrive, where beauty, philosophy, and higher noble pursuits are actively encouraged by the cities and countries that we inhabit, which would give millions of men a reason to care again.
I mean, this is a nice sentiment, but like, this is all well and good, but that's like the hierarchy of needs, that is like fourth or fifth at the bottom. Yeah, I don't know. I feel like first is like, hey, let people, you know, have jobs that give them enough money, but, you know, have people be less chronically online. Stop fucking shoving iPads in front of your kids' faces and letting them grow up. You tear down everything. I mean, yeah, you could do that, but how is that really gonna work with like today's society, especially online? If you tear something down, it's just gonna build back up within like days online. You know, like if they ban Twitter, there's gonna be a replacement Twitter within like days of it getting banned. Whereas if like you tear down a library or a meeting spot or ban like people from talking about it and like have like police everywhere, it's completely different. Like you're gonna halt them to some degree, but online it's really hard to contain that kind of shit. Yeah, I don't know. This is very abstract. I agree, but it's kind of a dumb video. I don't know. I was strong. Wish loitering was more acceptable. Oh, you're a loiterer. That was a good video. I liked it. For talking points, I like that. Yeah. You know what? Sometimes we can disagree with stuff. Way more doomer. I mean, I'm all for dooming and stuff, but like, you gotta have better solutions than we gotta build more churches and nicer places like Europe. It's like, that's not gonna happen, but you know.